let's see how can we then feed the started reading timestamp coming from our database. So this is where the action happens. This is where we're changing from start reading, as I say, to started reading once that is clicked. Okay. Now, coming back, we need to read that information back, meaning that if they have started reading, we've passed on after update, of course, we've passed that start reading timestamp. When we come back, we want to see that timestamp shown here, right? Which means the text has to change as well. So that means then we have to include another if statement, if you will, or ternary operator there, that will check to see if our started reading from our book, right, from a book object, if it's null or not null. If it's not null, that means we have the date, which means we should show in the text. That means then before this is reading clicked here, I need to add yet another statement here, if statement. So I'm going to say if widget, so I'm going to say widget.book, right? And then I'm going to get this started reading. If that is null, that's when this will run, right? So I'm going to say like this. This will run, meaning we're going to go and check if this is true and go from there. Else, right, if we have something, then I'm going to add another text here that will show the date. So I'm going to say started on, and then I'm going to pass the date. Now, the problem about the date as it comes in is going to come in as a timestamp. So we'll have to format that date so that it looks and shows up the way we want. So that means that I'm going to say format date, which we haven't created, and then I'm going to pass the widget, that book, that started reading like this. I don't need to create this format date method. So I'm going to copy this and create a new method. So inside of lib, let's create a util folder. And then inside of util, we're going to create a new file called util.dart. Okay, so here we're going to create a function called string format date, and it will expect to receive a timestamp type as such called timestamp, right? And then we are going to return something. Right, forgot to, this has to be Dart. That's why it's giving us a problem. Let's go ahead and rename Dart. There we go. All right, let's import our Cloud Firestore there. So what is that we're going to be returning? Well, we need to return the conversion from this type timestamp into something we can actually make sense out of it, meaning something that perhaps would say something like this. Let's look at the main one. It says something like this, May 17th and the year. Okay, so what do we do here? There is this class called date format. Now this date format class, we need to import another package, which is not here. So this package that we need to import is called international package, so intel.dart. So what do we need to do? Let's go ahead and say invoke our pub assist there, and then I'm going to say intel like this, hit enter. We should then update our intel or install our Intel international package, which we'll need for this to work. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and see if that's there. All right, Intel is added, and there we go. Now we have access to date format. And what we need to do, there's so many methods, right? So the method we're going to use is the year, month, like this, and day like that. And then I'm going to invoke the format method, which then I'm going to pass the timestamp, right? And I'm going to invoke the toDate method to then get the actual date that I want. So this will allow me to get something like this. If you are interested in learning more about date format, you can actually go search date format Flutter class, and there is a lot of information you can learn about. It's pretty neat. You can format your date into so many different ways. So I'll encourage you to do that on your own. All right, so now that we have that, go back here. We can, of course, import that. Oops. Let's go ahead and import that package there, and we should be good. So now if I save this, click this one, you can see now it says start on Monday, May 17th, which is exactly the date that we have in our database, right? If we go back here, it is indeed, that's the date. Now, the timestamp is a little bit complicated because it includes date and time. So you can do all sort of complicated things if you want to add the time and so forth. So that's something extra credit you can do if you want to do so, or learn more about the Firebase timestamp, which I encourage you to do if you're curious about. All right. So there we go. So now, of course, there's some more work to do here, but at least we know that we're able to fetch that information from the database when we updated our book earlier. The next thing we want to do is to make sure that they can't click this again, right? Because the idea is that that timestamp stays there forever, really, because that's the date you start reading the book. So if you look at this, we are actually able to hover over and nothing happens. That just means that there's no clicking that will happen again, because we already changed that date or set that date when we started reading this book. How do we accomplish this? Going back to our code, you will see that inside where we're talking about reading, so we're changing the state of start reading from started reading and so forth. We have at the top here the set state. So what we can do to disable the pressed event of this button, or any button for that matter, is we just pass a null to the onPressed method, for the onPressed method. So that just means right here I can do the same thing, check to see if our book has the started reading, right, field, or if it has something. I can say widget, that book, okay, that started reading. If it's null, then all is good. This is what we want to show. We want to make sure that then they're able to click and things being clickable. But else, I can say if that's not true, I'm just going to pass a null like this. This is how you change the state of the button to be something like this. In fact, if I go ahead and save this now, let's restart. If I click this button, you can see now I no longer can do anything with this, which is really good. That's exactly what we want. So started on Monday, May 17th. Now, you see here that it says Monday, but the original one just says May. So you can change again, like I said, looks like in our code, my code here, I added a different method. So if you say YMME, that will add, of course, the day of the week. So if you just remove that, just with the D at the end, we should get rid of that end of the week, or day of the week, I should say. So now it should look just the month, the date, and the year. We have to restart everything to log ourselves in. Okay, let's click, and you can see now it says that. So you can play around again. This is one of those things that you can spend a long time just looking at different ways to format your dates. All right, this is real good. We're making real good progress. Next, we're going to look at the mark as read. So the idea is when they click mark as read and update, nothing really will show here, but it will then take the book and put in the reading list. That all is coming up in the next videos.